Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet.
I just have a couple concerns. You both gave us a list of demands of things you want from us before we make this fighting game, and some of them we can't do. Marvel, as an example, you want one of your characters to win Evo this year. We have no control over that. DC, you want Superman's character to not take any damage from any of the Marvel cast. That kind of defeats the purpose of a fighting game. Marvel, you want Thanos to have an ability that will delete the DC side of the roster. DC says whenever you use the random button, it always falls on Batman. Marvel, you want Deadpool to switch sides during the campaign and make love to Green Arrow. I'm okay with that.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 2.
Hey guys, we got your new list of demands, and we're still having a couple problems here. Marvel, apparently you don't want the Teen Titans because they are whack AF. DC, you say you want to have only DC characters on the box art for the Xbox and the PlayStation. Marvel, it says here you want Wolverine to have 6 life bars? DC, you want all of the female Marvel characters to wear pantsuits. And Marvel, you want Batman to be overly sensitive of how pointy his ears are on his cowl. We think we can do that one.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 3.
We got the new demands in, and I'm going to be honest, these are worse than the last ones. Marvel, to start off with, we are not going to mention that your movies are doing better. And in the same vein, DC, we're not going to mention anything about the Snyder Cut. There's no need to. DC, there's nowhere in lore where Captain America's shield was made from old pizza boxes. Marvel, we have a question actually for you here. It says, please make a joke about the Flash being the fastest man alive. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. DC, we cannot make a special ending for Thanos where he becomes a maid. Marvel, we cannot make all of the Marvel characters the only characters that can be used online.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 4.
We got the demands in, and really? DC, we're giving Marvel super moves too, and they're not going to be called Kitty Puff Puffs. Marvel, we're also going to give DC the option to jump. DC, we're going to say no, and Groot cannot narrate the campaign. Marvel, we cannot get WAP from Cardi B to be playing when Green Lantern shows up. DC, you're just saying that Superman's stronger than Goku. Goku's not in Marvel. Or DC. What are you talking about?
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 5.
So, first off, we solved a couple problems here from your last memo. DP means Dragon Punch. Not what you thought it meant. DC, we're not going to switch Nick Fury's eye patch to a different eye every scene. Marvel, we're not going to be able to deny DC the option to use the training mode. Like, why? And DC, we are not going to make that longer on Dr. Manhattan. Marvel, we in no way are going to show Robin actually laying an egg. DC, no one is going to scream, do a kickflip when Silver Surfer shows up.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 6.
Okay, so I'm starting to think you guys are just trying to one-up each other. Hey guys, footsies means something completely different in fighting games. Please stop sending me your socks. DC, you want all of your characters to be top tier. Marvel, Drax does not actually have the ability to go invisible. DC, we are not going to have Stan Lee as a DLC character. And while we're talking about DLC, Marvel, we're not going to deny all of DC characters that have the word woman or man in their name. DC, we are not going to force Marvel to use a Wiimote and Nunchuck to play this game. We're not even putting it on a Nintendo system, dude.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 7.
Okay, I guess you're just going to send me demands every day now. And before we get started, combos are attacks that chain together, not the little yummy pretzel snacks. DC, you want Wanda to change Deadpool's personality to think he's Green Lantern. Nobody wants that. Marvel, you want Bane to crash through a wall and scream, "Oh yeah," like the Kool-Aid Man. Marvel, you want to have a latex battle between Catwoman and Black Widow. We're definitely going to do that, but we're not going to call it that. DC, you want all characters that got their powers through some form of mutation to not be in the game. Dude, that's like 80% of the Marvel side. Lastly, we need to decide on a name here, so if you guys can, let me know what you guys think it should be. And you guys, too.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 8!
All right, another day, another ridiculous list of demands. DC, we can't really control that Tom Hiddleston is a good-looking actor. Marvel, you want the Joker to actually do stand-up comedy? DC, as a alternate skin for Iceman, you want Elsa from Frozen. Marvel, we are not going to charge DC $1.50 every time they use a super move. And while we're on that note, DC, we're not going to charge Marvel $5 per month so they can see what their health is during the match. I see here you guys actually agreed that for the final boss, you don't want Ultron to be merged with anyone.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 9.
To start off, guys, we asked James Gunn to do what you asked, and he very colorfully asked us to go away. DC, we are not going to force the player to lose 14,605 times to unlock Doctor Strange. Marvel, the Suicide Squad is not going to argue over when bowling night is going to be. And on that note, DC, Ultron is not going to invite the Avengers over for a trivia night. DC, we are not going to have collectible magnets for Winter Soldier's arm. Marvel, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman never did that together. In DC, we are not going to find a way for Hawkeye to be interesting. Even I know that's low.
Why Marvel vs. DC is not a fighting game yet. Part 10.
Alright guys, I'm getting kind of over this. DC, we are not going to have John Cena's theme song start playing when the Invisible Woman shows up. Marvel, Darkseid is not going to take a remedial math class to figure out the anti-life equation. DC, we are not going to make a permadeath mechanic for the Marvel characters. And while we're on that note, Marvel, if a character died in the comics, we are not going to ban them from competitive play. We like the idea of Captain Marvel versus Shazam. However, we're not going to get that past the ratings board. And lastly, you want us to ask the audience? So it's finally your guys' turn. Let me know what wacky ideas why Marvel and DC isn't a fighting game yet. Maybe I'll mention you in the next video.